The 2025 PECOTA standings are out as of today, and not everybody is happy with where their team is projected to finish when it comes to their win totals. Teams that are inexplicably looking at a step backwards, like the Phillies, the Red Sox, the Tigers, the Brewers, the Diamondbacks, and teams taking a step forward. I obviously agree that the Dodgers and the Braves, sure, but the White Sox, the Twins, the Jays, the Angels, should they be looking at the jumps forward that the PECOTA standings has predicted? We're going to dig into it. Make sure to hit that like if you enjoy your time here and subscribe if you are new. And let's begin. Let's pull up the American League East. First up, we've got the New York Yankees at 89.7. Last year they won 94. We're going back 5 wins without Juan Soto. I mean, they did add a lot after he left, so that seems like a tough pill to swallow. I would go over on the 89.7 personally for the New York Yankees. The Baltimore Orioles last year won 91. They've got them at 89. Okay, I mean, I could see the Orioles basically holding serve. The Toronto Blue Jays are where we see our first big win improvement. This is a 10-win jump for the Toronto Blue Jays, who last year went 74 and 88. Take them up to 84.5. Is it deserving? This team last year, most would argue, underperformed. So are we giving them some chips, some win chips for that? On top of it, they brought in Anthony Santander. You're looking for the Bo Bichette bounce back. So can we find our way to 10 more wins with the current situation? I mean, if you're the Blue Jays, again, this is as of February 3rd. If you're the Blue Jays and you're considering where you stack up in the American League East, now look, the front office is not high-fiving, congratulations, mission accomplished, 10 wins above last year. But it does paint a picture for where the Jays fall. With all of these wins that are projected in PECOTA, the Blue Jays would still miss the playoffs if this is how it played out. If the Jays finished with 84 wins, they would still miss the postseason. The Orioles would get a wild card spot, the Astros would get a wild card spot, and the Seattle Mariners would get a wild card spot. So the takeaway here is, if you're the Blue Jays, you are one of those bottom wild card teams, and it's going to be a fight. All the more reason to go and grab another big piece off of the free agent market. Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, grab somebody because you need something else. Because I am kind of on board with a mid-80s win team, and that could mean you're watching October instead of participating in it. The Rays are going to hold serve. The Boston Red Sox are getting dogged here. 77.6. Last year, they won 81. We're going backwards? With the young players that should be ascending, we're going to talk about that for a lot of these teams here. Ascending talent. Players that I expect to be better next year than they were last year. Boston has a lot of that. And we're going backwards? Boston added Garrett Crochet. They added Walker Buehler. And we're going backwards? This is one of the biggest misses in this whole thing, is that Boston would go backwards in wins. It's a huge miss. It's wrong. They will not win less games in 2025 than they did in 2024. So there's a big miss right here. Red Sox fans just want to shove it off and say, forget it. I would understand why, because this just does not hold any water. There is no projection system that should lead the Red Sox to a negative win year-over-year situation. Let's go to the Central, because there's another interesting situation happening here. So we've got the Minnesota Twins, 86 and 75. Last year, the Twins won 82 games, but remember, there was a whole second half debacle there. Minnesota Twins looked like they were a playoff team, and then it all fell apart. Now we're going to project them to win in the Central. This is a 4-win improvement and again, an AL Central winner. They lost Carlos Santana, they lost Max Kepler, and they made no major additions. So we have to be counting on bounce backs or ascending talent. And I'm sorry, I don't think the Twins are in a position where you can count on that to lead you to a division, lead you to 4 wins over last year. The talent that they've got, we kind of know what that is. We're not going to expect Pablo Lopez to go up another 20%. It would be great if Byron Buxton could be healthy and Lewis could stay healthy, because that could lead to a jump. But those players have yet to, at this point, give us any reason to believe that they could make it through the season healthy. So for the Minnesota Twins to be going up 4 wins, I think we have another miss here. It's not as egregious, because could they win more than last year? Yes. Can they get up to 86? Potentially. But what's, I guess, really what I'm hung up on here, maybe I'm taking out on the Twins and I shouldn't be, it's the rest of the division. Kansas City, a 5-win decrease. The Cleveland Guardians, a 12-win decrease. The Detroit Tigers, a 7-win decrease. And the Chicago White Sox, a 20-win improvement. I don't think anything that I just said that this PECOTA standings thing gave us will happen. Detroit is not going backwards. Cleveland is not going backwards to this degree. Does Cleveland win 92 games in this upcoming season? I don't believe so. The Cleveland Guardians, they lose, or they traded away Jimenez. They traded away Naylor. So I can see some wins coming off of the board, but I don't think we go from 92 to 80. Then we have a situation in Detroit. Wow. You're going to tell me that this team is going to take a 7-win hit? Think about Detroit. The Detroit Tigers this offseason, they didn't really lose anything. This Detroit team, they brought back they brought back Jack Flaherty. They bring Canely. They bring Glaber. They bring Alex Cobb. They added more to the team, and they didn't really lose anything of any significance. And we're going to go backwards. So this, I'm really off on the Detroit one. The Cleveland one, it's too strong of a win regression. And for Kansas City, I think Kansas City is going to be right back where they were last year, which will be high 80s, 86, 87. Last year, they won 86 games. I think they'll be right back there again this upcoming season. They lost Brady Singer from that rotation, but they did bring in Estevez. They brought in India. So, that was a key element that Kansas City needed to address, was the lineup, and they did that with Jonathan India. So I think Kansas City will, at the very least, be right back where they were last year. I am just shocked at how whatever algorithm was spewed out to pull together this central projection, how we got to a point where Kansas City, Cleveland, and Detroit are taking significant hits, but Minnesota is getting a boost. I mean, look, if KC, Cleveland, and Detroit are all taking hits, then Minnesota should as well. And if you're wondering, well, Jim, where are all these wins going to come from? It's going to come from the fact that Chicago's not winning 61 games. That's where the wins are coming from. Just go beat up on the White Sox, and the White Sox will do what they did last year again. They will lose 120 games. So there are 20 White Sox losses that maybe could be distributed to these AL Central teams. So big miss, huge miss on the AL Central. In the American League West, we have a Texas 11-win jump. Last year, 78 wins, projecting 89 wins. Houston, 86.9. Last year, they won 88, so basically holding. Seattle at 85.8. Last year, Seattle won 85, so essentially holding. We see a big jump for the Angels, though. 76 wins after 63. And a last place finish last year for the Angels. This is interesting. I'm guessing counting on a healthy Mike Trout and that ascending talent I talk about. Look, I believe that the Angels could have a rise in wins, but are they going to see a 13-win jump? The pitching is the problem for me. I am a big Zach Neto fan this year. I like Nolan Schanuel. I like Logan O'Hoppe. I think there are some really good pieces here. I think Taylor Ward is a very nice piece. Jorge Soler is going to hit a ton of home runs. The pitching is going to be a problem for the Angels and will be the reason, in my opinion, they don't see a 13-win jump. Can they increase 7 or 8 wins, get to the 70-win mark? Possibly, sure. Yes, sign me up for that. But to go from 63 to 76, I can't see it, especially when we're going to have a Texas team winning, what was the number? 11 more games. We're going to have a Houston team and a Seattle team essentially holding. And there's a A's situation here that I think is a miss as well. No real jump for the A's. Last year, the A's won 69. We have a 70.6 win projection here. They add Severino and Springs to that rotation. Those are two big additions. Give me the pitching here, right? The Angels, I don't see it. The A's, I do see it. And a lot of it is because of the pitching. And also, they add Leclerc to the bullpen. They add Urshela as a veteran presence. Good piece there. No significant losses for the A's. Ascending talent here as well with Butler and Langeliers and Blade. I think Zach Geloff gets back on track. So give me the A's to get up to that 76 number. I'm surprised that we see nothing from the A's. We see such a big jump from the Angels. I know they added a lot of pieces this offseason, but I was looking for a big splash for that rotation that never happened. And well, look, and if you want to call Yusei Kikuchi a big splash, then you would take exception with that last comment of mine. But I don't think that's what he is. I think Yusei Kikuchi should be a 3 in a rotation, not the 1. And that's the situation with the Angels. I do like a Texas bounce back. I did not mean to skip over that, but I do like a Texas bounce back. When you think about this team, what they did last year, the underperformance, and it wasn't just underperformance. There were injuries as well with Young and Carter, both hurt, missed significant time. You had down years with the bat from Adolis Garcia and Marcus Semien. I think those two bounce back. I think all 4 of them will contribute more significantly offensively this year. I mean, well, Carter and Young just by being there for one. But I think you'll see Semien and Garcia bounce back. You're going to have to hope for a DeGrom. You know, you have to hope for something from DeGrom. But with Nate Eovaldi being back, I think this team, even if the pitching is not supreme, I think the pitching can be good enough, and this lineup could be one of the best in baseball if those elements come true. Carter is back and is the Evan Carter that he looked like he was going to be. Young is back, hitting home runs. Garcia bounces back. Semien bounces back. I do see Texas seeing a nice jump in wins and being right back in the conversation at the top of the American League West. Let's see here. Let's go to can we move on? I think we can move on. Let's go to the National League now, because the National League East is where we have some drama. So we have the Atlanta Braves up 3 wins. And that is despite a Max Fried, AJ Minter, Charlie Morton loss. The biggest addition has been Jurickson Profar, which is actually a really great addition. He was so clutch, came up big in so many spots for San Diego last year. That's a great addition for the Atlanta Braves. You have him in there. You're going to be counting on some bounce backs from Austin Riley and Matt Olson. At some point, you'll get Ronald Acuna back. You'll get Spencer Strider back. So I believe the Braves have at least a 3-win climb in them. Last year felt like it was a worst case scenario kind of season, and they still made the playoffs. So if they can get through that, then they can get through anything. So I could see a win increase for the Atlanta Braves, no problem. For the New York Mets, we're holding. Last year, the New York Mets won a total of 89 games, and we have an 88.9 projected win. So we've got a Mets situation that holds, and I can get on board with that. There's a lot that we need to see play out for the Mets from a rebuilt rotation and a lineup that, at the moment, again, this is as of February 3rd. So we're still waiting to see if Pete Alonso is back, and we're still waiting to see if those 30 to 40 potential home runs are in that lineup or not. But if you're the New York Mets, maybe you would like it. It would certainly help push this win total up some. But again, I'm fine with the Mets. The Phillies are where I'm surprised. The Philadelphia Phillies, and those of you that saw the World Series number, it's 4.6% for the World Series. The Mets are higher. The Twins are higher with their World Series odds. Are you kidding? So a Philadelphia Phillies team last year won 95 games. We've got an 87.5 projection. That is an 8-win drop. And they added Jesus Luzardo. When we think about departures, okay, they lost Hoffman. They lost Estevez. They lost a couple bullpen pieces, but Estevez was a late season addition. So it's not like Estevez was there and used to get Philly to that total win count of 95. He was a late addition. I am really surprised. This is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, it's top 3 biggest misses with this whole PECOTA thing. I guess we're counting on, or this is saying that what the veterans are all going to take a step back. This is a very veteran heavy team. These are all guys that are getting up there in age, but we still have tremendous talent here. We have one of the best rotations in baseball. We've got an amazing team that I don't think is ready to have this significant drop-off that this would indicate. 87.5 wins. Now, it would still be enough to make the playoffs, but it would be as a wild card along with the Mets and the Diamondbacks. I think Philly's getting dogged here. I think Philadelphia, if you are a Phillies fan and you saw this and you are looking for vindication that this is just wrong, this is it. It's wrong. This is a 90-plus win team. We're not going backwards 8 wins. I think they're probably right back where they were last year in the mid-90s, 95, 94, somewhere around there. We're not going back. We're not going to 87. Washington is at 74-2. Miami's at 62-3. Those are basically holding where they were last year. Washington's actually, that's up a couple of wins. But we can move on. We can continue on to the NL Central, which has more interesting stuff here. So you've got the Chicago Cubs last year, 83 wins, now projected to go to 90, which would be enough for this to win the Central. We also have a Central that is projecting only one team, the division winner, to finish over 500. In a division that last year saw 3 teams finish over 500, and one of those teams that did not finish above 500, the Cincinnati Reds, I think most people would agree, under-delivered and underperformed last year, and we'll be looking for a bounce back. And you see Cincinnati at the bottom, 73.5, projected to finish in last place. All right, let's just go one at a time here. So the Cubs, we're seeing a 7-win increase. You have added Kyle Tucker. Again, the underachievement last year, you're kind of expecting that to get right this year. So I can get on board with the Chicago Cubs seeing a win increase. Again, last year was 83. It was an underperformance. I'll buy it. You can take me to 90 wins for the Cubs. I think this rotation, at this point, the rotation is probably, we could call it underrated. With Imanaga and Steele at the top, there are some good pieces here. Jameson Tyone as your 3. This is a lot of options for that rotation. I think this is a good piece. The bullpen, we'll see how that works out. Gonna have to keep our fingers crossed in some instances, but I can get to 90 wins for the Cubs. Okay, I can get there. What I can't do is I can't see the Brewers taking a 13-win drop. Last year, 93 wins, dropping down to 80 this year. I understand that Devin Williams is gone. I understand that Willie Adames is gone. But the Brewers did or will get Brandon Woodruff back. He's fantastic, right? Nestor Cortez was brought in that Devin Williams trade. He will contribute in that rotation. But most importantly is the ascending talent. Chourio, Contreras. I think Contreras is still getting better. Tobias Myers. I could make a case for more, but I'll just leave it there. That the Milwaukee Brewers have enough talent to where, we saw we see two key guys leave the equation. But you're going to see, I'm pretty sure, a Jackson Chourio year that is going to just leave you in awe. And on top of that, there are other pieces that are going to take another step in their talent evolution. Brewers are not going to drop 13 wins. They are not going to finish below 500. Let's just cut that out right now. It's not going to happen. The St. Louis Cardinals, this is a 5-win drop, and I think we are tracking there. In fact, if there's one team that is maybe going to lose more, it could be right here. It doesn't seem like they're moving in a positive direction. They seem like they're headed down. The Pittsburgh Pirates were basically holding serve with the 75 wins. I think there's a lot of question marks about Pittsburgh this year. And Cincinnati, this is the other one. 73.5 is the win total. Last year, the Cincinnati Reds won 77, so we're dropping 4. We're dropping 4 coming off of an underperforming year. With all of that talent that is still growing, I'll stop saying the ascending talent thing. I'm sure you're sick of it by now. The talent that is continuing to improve. You've also got a brand new manager, Tito. You've got Terry Francona. You got a new manager in there. I don't want to call him brand. It makes him sound young and spry. He may like to think he is, but sorry, Tito. The Reds are going to be better than they were last year. We're not dropping 4 games. We're not going from 77 to 73. If anything, we're going from 77 to 83, which still wouldn't be enough to make the playoffs, but it would be a step in the right direction. And they didn't bring Francona in, and Francona didn't take that job to only go from 77 to 83. Last year, the Reds were supposed to be a 82, 83, 84 win team, and some people really liked them to the point where they were making them their dark horse in the Central, and it fell flat. You had injuries, you had all sorts of just things going wrong. So if we were at low 80s last year, the Reds in their mind probably want to just cross off last year and go above that. The Reds' goal has to be 86, 87, 88, pushing for the division. And we got 73.5. Again, the Reds' mindset, I think, is way higher than that, and the Francona signing is there, and I think the Francona signing is what pushes this thing. We will not see a 4-win drop. Let's go to the National League West now, and we've got the Dodgers, a 103.8 win projection after 98 wins last year. They won 98 last year with all of the regular season challenges and difficulties they went through with injuries. They still got to 98 wins. Projecting them to go over that number makes a ton of sense. Really, if injuries creep up, then we'll obviously maybe see that come down again. But through all that they went through, we talked about it with the Atlanta Braves. It was a worst-case scenario, and they still made the playoffs. The Dodgers damn near had so many different worst-case scenario situations with individual players. I understand Ohtani had an unbelievable season, so there was a lot of good that happened with the Dodgers, but there were also a lot of hurdles that they had to clear, and they still won 98 games. If they don't have as many hurdles to clear this year, then 103 should be a piece of cake. The Arizona Diamondbacks at 86.4. That is interesting to me because for Arizona, we're going backwards here. So 89 was the final win total last year, missed the playoffs, and we're going to go back further. Now, this 86.4 would be enough to make the playoffs this year, along with the Mets and the Phillies, but I cannot see Arizona going backwards. The Arizona Diamondbacks are not going to go backwards. Christian Walker, yes, he is out, but they replaced him with Josh Naylor. You add Corbin Burns. That's the biggest argument right there. You now have a two-headed Cy Young caliber monster in that rotation with Gallen and Corbin Burns, and you're going backwards in wins? This can't and won't happen. The Arizona Diamondbacks, 89 wins last year. I think they are in the low 90s. I think they are. San Diego last year won 93. Give me 93 for Arizona this year coming up. Speaking of San Diego, 93 last year and 82.5. We are going back 11 wins on the San Diego Padres. They lost Jurickson Profar. They lost Ha-Sung Kim. They lost Scott, but Scott was a late season acquisition. The Musgrove injury hurts. That has to be applied as a loss for this upcoming season. I do believe this team, if you run it out there as is, they're probably a 500 team. They're right around 80, 81, 82, maybe 83. And that's not good enough with this payroll and with this division and with the expectation of the fan base. So more has to be done. So they have to get aggressive because as of right now, I can see a significant drop in wins. Maybe not to this degree, but enough to where you're fighting to grab the final wildcard spot. And you want to try to get out of that situation. Again, Profar was huge for this team last year. Haven't replaced him. Musgrove, haven't replaced him. There's a problem. There's definitely a problem in San Diego, and they have got to. AJ Preller has got to get on this. San Francisco, 78 wins. That is a 2-win drop. I'm surprised we didn't see at least 81, at least a 1-win improvement here because they did add Verlander. They did add, more importantly, Willy Adames. They lost Blake Snell, but Blake Snell was really only a positive contributor in the second half of the season. The first half of the season, when he finally started pitching, it was a mess in the beginning. So San Francisco at 78, I would bump them up a little bit, but again, they're going to be in a similar situation with San Diego where it is going to be fighting and scratching and clawing for the final wildcard spot. Because look, at the end of the day, in the National League East, give me 3 of them. Atlanta, Mets, and Phillies. Give me 3. You get your Central winner, and if another Central team, if the Milwaukee Brewers say, we're not going back to 80, we're still going to be pushing for 90, then you have a second Central team that wants to crash the party and make it difficult because you got the Dodgers in the West, and give me the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks, Mets, and Phillies, I would be very comfortable saying would be my wild card teams, and there is the chance that a team in the Central crashes the party. And if that happens and you're San Diego or you're San Francisco, what are you going to do? Because right now, while I would bump both of those teams up a win or 2 from this PECOTA projections, it still would not be enough to make the playoffs. That is going to do it for this one, everybody. I do appreciate you coming in and spending time with the channel. Thank you, BALLCAP Nation. I salute you, especially you 100%ers that made it all the way to the end for this one. Thank you. It does amazing things for the algorithm. So again, I truly do appreciate that. Make sure to hit that like on the way out, everybody. And remember, if it's low, let it go. And if it's high, let it fly. I'll catch you next time.